is Tua Man, David.
You a coward. The jab, he can beat him all night with it.
Legacy collided in a contest that promised violence, but delivered something far more calculated. Nearly 1,000 supporters had flown across the Pacific from New Zealand, with hundreds more arriving from Samoa, all chanting the name of their fearless challenger. Across the arena, British and Canadian flags waved proudly for the reigning champion. It was more than a title fight, it was a global collision of belief systems. On one side stood David Tua, the compact destroyer with dynamite in his left hook. On the other stood Lennox Lewis, the towering, cerebral heavyweight champion whose calm demeanor masked one of the most disciplined arsenals the division had ever seen. From the opening seconds, the contrast was unmistakable. Lewis stepped forward with intention, his long left arm snapping out like a measuring stick, establishing distance before Tua could even settle into rhythm. The jab wasn't thrown with fury, it was delivered with authority. Each extension served as a reminder. This was the champion's ring. Tua, undeterred, leapt in with his trademark left hook, the punch that had flattened so many opponents before. But Lewis did not flinch. He fought tall, chin tucked safely behind his lead shoulder, never allowing his head to drift beyond his front knee. It was textbook heavyweight geometry: control the range, control the fight. Tua's supporters roared every time he twitched forward, hoping to see the explosion that had become his signature. Yet minutes passed with little landing cleanly. Lewis's jab pierced the air again and again, snapping Tua's head back just enough to disrupt momentum. 20 jabs found their mark in the opening round. Tua, despite throwing with intent, landed only a handful of meaningful shots. The message was clear: aggression without access is futile. In the second round, the pattern intensified. Lewis began to stretch the space even more deliberately, pawing, prodding, firing the jab in rhythmic succession. Stick and move. Stick and move. The phrase might as well have echoed from the rafters. Tua attempted to bob and weave, dipping low, rolling his shoulders, trying to slip inside the firing line. For brief flashes, he succeeded. A left hook grazed Lewis. A body shot thudded into the champion's ribs. For a moment, it felt as though the challenger might be closing the distance. But whenever Tua found a small opening, Lewis answered with discipline. He resisted the urge to trade recklessly. Even after absorbing a solid hook near the end of the round, Lewis refused to abandon his structure. He returned to the jab, almost stubbornly. It wasn't flashy. It didn't ignite the crowd the way wild exchanges might have. But it was effective, brutally effective. By the third round, tension began to simmer. Harold Lederman's unofficial scorecard favored Tua based on aggression and the heavier power shots he had landed late in earlier rounds. The crowd buzzed at the possibility that the challenger's thunder might be swaying the narrative. Yet inside the ropes, a different story unfolded. Lewis adjusted his footwork, moving consistently to his right, away from Tua's crushing left hook. Whenever he drifted left, danger flickered. So he corrected course immediately, circling smartly, jabbing relentlessly. Tua's head movement was admirable. He weaved and dipped, trying to make the giant miss. But missing was not enough. To win, he had to punish. And punishing required proximity. A proximity Lewis refused to grant for more than a heartbeat at a time. By the fourth and fifth rounds, the fight settled into a tactical rhythm that frustrated many in attendance. Lewis's punch output dipped slightly, but his precision sharpened. 60 of his 80 connected punches were jabs. It was clinical, almost surgical. Tua did manage to edge Lewis in power shots during certain stretches, landing to the body and occasionally clipping the champion upstairs. Yet each time he surged forward, Lewis either tied him up or pivoted away, forcing resets that drained precious seconds. The challenger's strategy had likely hinged on pressure, on forcing the larger, older champion into deep waters and testing stamina. But stamina only falters under sustained strain, and Lewis was not being forced into prolonged exchanges. Instead, he dictated the tempo like a seasoned conductor, ensuring that Tua chased rather than attacked with sustained fury. As the rounds advanced, subtle signs began to emerge. Tua's face showed swelling. His punch count dwindled below 30 per round. His pursuit became predictable. Forward steps without layered combinations. Lewis, sensing comfort, began introducing the right hand more frequently. That right came from a frightening angle, descending like a hammer from a height Tua struggled to neutralize. When it landed flush, it carried a different echo, deeper, heavier, ominous. By the 7th and 8th rounds, the narrative had shifted decisively. Lewis was no longer merely defending his belt. He was teaching a lesson. Jab, step left. Jab, pivot. Occasional right hand. Clinch when necessary. It wasn't the savage spectacle some fans craved, but it was heavyweight mastery. Tua's supporters continued to hope for the singular left hook that could change everything. After all, in heavyweight boxing, one punch can rewrite history. But history demands opportunity, and opportunity demands risk. And risk was precisely what Tua seemed reluctant to embrace. Perhaps the right hand he had tasted earlier lingered in his memory. Perhaps the height disparity, the constant reset of distance, eroded his confidence. Whatever the reason, the challenger hesitated at moments when recklessness might have been his only path to glory. In the 9th round, Lewis briefly unleashed a crisp combination that drew gasps. A right hand followed by another sharp punch, and suddenly Tua smiled. Not out of humor, but instinct. Fighters smile when they're hurt, masking vulnerability. The champion sensed the opening and returned to fundamentals rather than chasing a dramatic finish. It was the choice of a veteran who understood risk management at the highest level. By the championship rounds, the pattern felt almost merciless in its predictability. Tua lunged with isolated hooks. Lewis countered with measured precision. An uppercut in the 10th wobbled the challenger momentarily, the cleanest, most emphatic sequence of the fight. Yet even then, Lewis did not overcommit. He refused to trade recklessly in pursuit of a knockout. His objective was clarity, not chaos. Commentators began speculating about preparation issues, about weight, about sparring rumors. But speculation could not obscure the truth unfolding under the lights. This was not a case of Tua underperforming alone. It was a case of Lewis over-delivering tactically. The champion's calm bordered on chilling. He never appeared winded. He never appeared rattled. His hair may have brushed near his eyes, but his vision remained crystal clear. Entering the 12th and final round, the arena's energy shifted from anticipation to resignation. Some fans drifted toward the exits. Others stayed, clinging to the fantasy of a final round miracle. Tua had trained since childhood for this moment. 3 minutes separated him from either eternal regret or improbable triumph. Lewis, however, seemed untouchable. Jab, jab, body shot, pivot. The sequence repeated with mechanical reliability. He was not merely surviving, he was composing. A 3-punch combination late in the fight demonstrated that heavyweights could blend artistry with brute force. It was a reminder that skill, when maximized, can neutralize even the most dangerous power. When the final bell sounded, there was no ambiguity. The judges' scorecards reflected what had been visible for rounds. A unanimous decision. And still, the universally recognized undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis. As the announcement echoed, it felt less like a celebration of violence and more like an affirmation of discipline. Lewis had not engaged in a firefight because he did not need to. He had taken away Tua's strength and forced him into a contest he was ill-equipped to win. In doing so, he demonstrated why he stood at the summit of the heavyweight division, not merely because he could knock opponents out, but because he could dismantle them strategically. For David Tua, the night was a harsh education. Power alone is not enough against a champion who understands distance, timing, and patience. The left hook remained lethal, but without sustained pressure and layered offense, it was a solitary weapon against an arsenal. For Lennox Lewis, the victory reinforced a broader truth. Greatness is often misunderstood in real time. Some fans crave chaos. Others recognize mastery. On this night in Las Vegas, mastery prevailed. And now, Looking back at this clash of styles, the question lingers. Was this the performance that cemented Lewis as virtually unbeatable in his era? Could any heavyweight of that generation have solved the puzzle he presented that night? And if Tua had taken greater risks, diving headfirst into the storm, would history have shifted even slightly? Let me know what you think. Did Lewis deliver a tactical masterpiece? Or did Tua fail to rise to the moment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed deep dive storytelling breakdowns of legendary boxing nights like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter in boxing history.